Hello, I'm Mr. Baker, and this is our Chapter 8 on Mendelian genetics, and we're moving into complex inheritance. These are ones that do not follow the patterns described by Gregor Mendel, and it tells us that the dominant and recessive alleles that you've learned about can be far more complicated. One such way is incomplete dominance. Usually, heterozygotes individuals show the dominant trait. Big, little, the big wins. But in incomplete dominance, it's like they tie. And you get a blend of the two. Flowers are the great example of this. If you have a red flower and a white flower and you get pink offspring, the colors have blended. Here's your picture. Red flower, white flower, and you get all pinks. Codominance is another example. Both alleles, they tie, but they are expressed discretely. Here we're going to change and use capital C, in this case for color, and then capital C superscript, or just CR, red. CW is white. CR is a spotted flower. So if you take a red flower, CR, plus a white flower, CW, you get red and white spotted flowers, which are CR. You can also see it in roan animals. ROAN, roan. And that's when you get a white horse and a red horse, and then you get kind of this red and white horse. Kind of pinkish to me, but not quite. You can also get it in cattle, where you got a white bull and a red cow, and you get your red and your white splotted here. The big thing I want you to know is that incomplete dominance is when the traits blend. I will probably use flowers, and you will have a blend of colors. So red and white pink, red and yellow orange, blue and yellow will get you green, something like that will be your key. In codominance, the traits will be discrete, where you get both red hair and white hair. The key one here is a roan. Here is your summary. Incomplete dominance, the heterozygote is a blend of dominant and recessive. Big R equals red, little r equals pink, big R, little r equals pink. I think I said that wrong. Little r equals white, big R, little r equals pink. Codominance. The heterozygote has both the dominant and the recessive expressed, where you have big C for color, CR red, CW white, and if you're CR, you are roan, which means you have both red and white hairs. Another example are multiple alleles. Some traits have more than two possible, so every problem you've done so far, for example, with I think it was bunnies with gray and white hair, they had big G or little g, and that was the only options they had. Well, in human blood types, there are three possibilities. However, one individual still only has two alleles per trait, one per chromosome out of your chromosome pair that you get from your parents. So for blood type, you have IA, IB, and little I. You can only have two of those three, and you get those two from your parents. Capital IA, capital IB are dominant. That's why they have a capital I. Little I is recessive. Polygenic traits are traits controlled by more than one gene. They tend to follow a bell curve in how they are expressed through the population. Human skin melanin concentration has three alleles, A's, B's, and C's, and the more dominant alleles you have, the more melanin you have deposited in your skin. Those from a more recent ancestor from near the equator are probably going to have 6 dominants. Those that have red hair and fine skin might have all recessives. Your genes and environment constantly are impacting each other. Here is an Arctic fox in summer when it has brown fur, so it can blend into the vegetation, so it can still catch prey. And here it is during the winter where it's all white, so it can also blend into the snow and still catch prey. So here this is showing that your genes and your environment all interact to give you a phenotype depending on what's going on. You can also consider this with when you go outside during the summer. If you expose yourself to UV rays, your skin is going to react by producing more melanin. We call it a tan. There are recessive genetic disorders, and that's it is only expressed as a person is homozygous recessive, so little for the disease. If you're big little, you are a carrier, meaning you don't have the disease, but you could pass it on to your offspring. Dominant genetic disorders, you got it. If you have the dominant, you have it. There are no carriers, so either you have it or you don't. And the only time you don't have it is if you're homozygous recessive or little. One such example is Huntington's disease. This is a disease that's a neurodegenerative. That means your brain just kind of, neurons start to die and your cognitive functions, your ability to think, decreases over time. It first shows up in the mid to late 30s, and it causes fatality in 50s to 60s. You either have it or you don't, and if you have it, you could pass it on to your offspring. Just depends. What I want you to know is that this is a picture of a pedigree. Females are round, males are square. A carrier is half and half. It wouldn't let me do that on the spreadsheet, on the presentation, so I had to fill it in, but the actual picture there of the pedigree is correct. It's half and half, and if you have the disease or are affected by the disease, you are completely filled in. There's another set of diseases that are tied to the X chromosome. These are sex-linked traits because they're linked to the sex chromosomes. Males are more affected than females. Why? Because males only have one X chromosome. Examples include color blindness and hemophilia. Hemophilia is the bleeder's disease, and these people's blood doesn't clot effectively. The most severe form of hemophilia has an average lifespan of mid-20s, if I'm not mistaken. These are now treatable, and life has been expected. Color blindness, where you can't see red or green, is the most common form, is not fatal. Here's a picture of here's a picture of a pedigree. You can see that there are some carriers and some afflicted people through it. Don't forget, a karyotype is a picture of chromosomes. Don't forget that non-disjunction is when two chromosomes do not come apart, and you can end up with either a cell having too many or not enough. Trisomy is having 3 of the same chromosome. Disease, you should know, coming up in a moment. And monosomy is only having 1 chromosome. That's like Turner's from last unit. Trisomy 21, also known as Down syndrome. Individuals have 3 chromosome 21. That takes us to our next note quiz. Incomplete dominant, codominant, multiple alleles, polygenic traits, genes in the environment, disorders. You need to know carriers. You need to know what pedigrees are, not necessarily how to do one. You need to know sex-linked traits and the 2 diseases I mentioned. And don't forget non-disjunction, what a karyotype is, and Down syndrome is trisomy 21. Study hard, and thanks for watching.